My name is Stanley Kinyanjui, an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, and I'm a criminal practitioner whereby my interests revolve around criminal litigation and representing accused persons. So basically, I'm a defense lawyer. Now, over the past few days, we have been waking up to very many news of Kenyans who are being arrested, detained, and some of them not capable of even communicating to anyone of their whereabouts. Now, this explainer revolves around the rights of an accused person. And I begin by saying that the rule, or rather the rights of an accused person, do not stop the moment that you are arrested. Your rights and fundamental freedoms as a human being also do not stop the moment you are arrested. However, there are only limitations which go on. When I say go on, I mean you are only limited for a couple of rights, and part of it is the freedom of movement. And you would understand this, that when you are inside a cell, basically, you do not have the liberty of moving around, going to anywhere you wish. But that, again, I repeat, does not restrict you from enjoying your fundamental freedoms. Now, the first right as an arrested person is the right to be informed. And when I say the right to be informed, I mean that you have a right to be informed of why you are being arrested, and two, in a language that you understand, and three, that you also must be told where you are being taken to. I mean, we have been seeing very many clips on social media being shared of people who are arrested, and we do not know where these people, and none of even their families know which police station is coming for these people. And many times, like for example, the case of Albert Ojwang, the person was arrested in Nyanza and brought to Nairobi. So at the very least, you should be told why you are being arrested in a language that you understand, and two, where you are being taken to. Number two, you have the right to remain silent. And when I say silent, I do not mean that you should be uncooperative. I mean, if you are someone who has been arrested before, you would understand very quickly that being uncooperative at times does not assist you. When I say that you have a right to remain silent, I mean that you have a right that you do not have to give information that is going to self-incriminate you. When I say self-incriminate you, I mean information that is adverse to you enjoying a right to a fair hearing, which comes after you have been arraigned. Number three, you have the right to communicate to an advocate or any other person who can be necessary to give you assistance. This, I mean that anytime you are arrested, by the time you are getting to a police station, you have a right to ask for your lawyer to be present, or two, you have a right to ask the arresting officer to call your lawyer, so that when they are doing the booking, your lawyer is in the know-how of what you are being arrested for. The other person who you have a right to inform, or rather to communicate to, is a family member. Recently, we have seen a very dramatic approach to this particular right with the case of Ndiangui, where the young man had disappeared for a while, only for him to show up in court later and say that he was in hiding. But that is that's a different trajectory, but nonetheless, you should be able to communicate to your family members where you are. Number four, you have the right to be held separately from convicted persons. This is to mean that you should not be held in a prison, or you should not be held together with people who are serving sentences. And when I mean sentences, I mean this is a person who has gone to a court of law and has been judged to be guilty of an offense and is serving time. Therefore, whenever you are in a police station, although I do not see this happening at any given time, because ordinarily once a person is serving a sentence, they're usually sent to prison but not remanded in police custody. But nonetheless, you have a right not to be associated with those people. Now, I will digress a bit and talk about children. Everybody knows that at this time and age, and not so many It is not so uncommon to see sometimes children who are below the age of 18 years being arrested. Now, if you are a child and you are below the age of 18 and you are arrested and taken to the police station, you have a right not to be held together with adults. That is to mean you cannot be held in the same cell with adults who are above the age of 18 years. Now, the fifth right is the prompt appearance before a court of law. Now, the Constitution guarantees the expeditious disposal of trials and arraignments equally. So, whenever you are arrested, within 24 hours, the police should produce you in a court of law. But many a times, and I say this with a lot of caution and at the same time with a lot of knowledge, that our police officers have a habit of arresting people on Friday. And many people probably wonder why, but if they arrest you on Thursday, they should be able to produce you in a court of law on a Friday, rather before the end of Friday. But we see that they usually come to arrest us on a Friday so that you can spend the weekend in cells and they can produce you on a Monday. So the law is that whenever they arrest you within 24 hours or reasonably possible, and I say reasonably possible because when you are arrested on a Friday, the reasonable time that you should be taken to court is on Monday, not Tuesday. The sixth right is that you have a right to plead for release. That is, when you are arraigned in court, the first step after being read to the charges, you have a right to ask for bail or bond. Now, I believe that everybody now is aware that whenever you appear before a court of law, there are two things that usually happen, or rather, there are either of two things that usually happen. One is that when you ask for a plea, you have a right to be given, or rather, when you ask for plea, the judge or magistrate gives you bail and bond immediately after you ask for it. Or two, they ask for pre-bail reports. Now, pre-bail reports is another different arena, but I'll touch on it very briefly. Now, pre-bail reports are usually meant to inform the court that the community and the society outside there has a way of viewing you as an accused person, and whether that views, or rather those views, are going to impose and make the judge or magistrate impose certain conditions for you to be released or not to be released. So it is very key that this is one of the rights that the Constitution now has told us that you have a right to. And when I mean you have a right to, is that ordinarily, in the sense of business or being arrested and being taken to court, that is a right that should not be taken away from you. But again, that is not an absolute right, because most of the times that there are reasons, or rather, if the state is able to demonstrate why you should not be released, then it is a matter that can be taken for consideration. Now, touching again on the issue about bail, and I know this usually comes a lot, especially now that we're in a society that, every now and then everybody is being arrested. Whenever you are arrested with a misdemeanor or a crime or offense that is punishable for not more than 6 months or is punishable by a fine, then the police have a duty and obligation to give you cash bail right there at the police station. When I talk about these sort of offenses, I'm talking about misdemeanors. These are things like traffic offenses, overlapping, skipping the traffic lights, and some of these small things. You have a right at the police station to demand for cash bail. And I also say this with caution because, again, we have seen our police officers exercising discretion in giving out this kind of police bond or bails. So I'm telling every Kenyan that if you are arrested on a misdemeanor, an offense which is not punishable, which is punishable for less than 6 months in incarceration or by a fine only, then you have a right to post bail at the police station. Now, other silent rights usually appear, such as the right to equality before the law. That is to mean that you have a right to be equally protected by the law, and you have an equal right, just as anybody else. You have the benefit of enjoying those rights. The other silent right is fair administrative action. That is a fair administrative action that is expedient, efficient, lawful, and procedurally fair. And lastly, we talk about the enforcement of rights. Now, sometimes when we are arrested, we tend to see that by the time you are being arraigned in court, there are things that have happened in that police station that have somehow infringed or violated your constitutional rights. Now, every court of law has an obligation to ensure that any issue you raise about the enforcement of your rights at the police station is heeded to. That is to say that if you are in custody and you claim that a fundamental right and freedom has been violated, you have a right at the next court appearance or at the first court appearance to inform the court of that infringement. That's all for rights of an arrested person. Thank you.